Welcome back to Scratching the Surface on episode 38. Today, I will be talking about the recent release of Until Dawn, an adaptation of the video game on PlayStation of the same name. Before I get into the episode, please check us out at scratchingthesurface100.com. You can read our monthly article blogs. You can leave and write your own horror movie reviews, and you can keep up to date for future horror movies for the year of 2025 and beyond. So, Until Dawn, it was met with a lot of controversy the moment the trailers dropped, and I understand why. I personally had never played the games on PlayStation, so I don't really have a whole lot of say on this subject matter. But from what I had seen leading up to this release, it was mostly all negative, and for good reason, I'm sure. As a Halo fan, when that new series came out, that first season, watching it, I was so disappointed in the lack of faithfulness to the story and to the characters that made the game great in the first place. So this one, I definitely can see why it made people upset, but we got to look past that. We got to see if this is actually a good film or not, and whether it's worth checking out. Until Dawn is directed by David Sandberg and written by Gary Doberman, which was initially written by Blair Butler. After Blair Butler wrote it, it kind of sat for a bit, and Gary picked it up to finish it. And again, David Sandberg had directed. He had done Lights Out, I believe, in 2016, and he also did Annabelle Creation. So he has some history in the horror genre. So I was excited to see what he was going to bring to the table. We have a cast of unknowns. If I'm being honest, I didn't recognize a single one, which works sometimes it doesn't. The plot itself, if you've played the game or if you've watched the trailers, you kind of have an idea of what loosely the story will be about. But here in the film, it's about a group of friends that goes to look for a sister of one of the friends who went missing the year prior, and they try to go retrace her steps and see if they can figure out the mystery. They end up in this mysterious house, which is surrounded by rain at that time. There's a storm, and it's almost this complete full circle around this location, this piece of land and this house. There's rain outside of this circle and storms, and all of a sudden they drive through the barrier to the interior of the circle, and it's totally nice out. There's no clouds, there's no rain, there's no storms, and there's just this single kind of creepy looking house sitting there in that location. So they go in, they try to figure out what's going on, why that was even doing that with the storm was really weird for them to even see. So they go in, they find some books, they find some different items that kind of lead them to some clues to the disappearance of one of the characters' sisters. So that's the base premise. Once that happens, they begin to realize they are stuck in a time loop. So there is this killer that will attack them, and if they die, they come back the next night, and then they get another chance, kind of like you would in a video game, which is kind of a cool idea. I thought it was neat. So that's the base premise, and as the movie goes on, they're trying to discover more and more about this place and where her sister had disappeared to. One big thing we notice as the film continues to progress is that with each reoccurrence and new life and another death comes worsened physical ability. Your body starts to degrade a little bit on some of the characters that we notice to see as the viewer. So there's a little bit of a sense of urgency with each night. We're not just coming back in full health. We come back with scars, and we come back weaker than we were before. We come to find at the end of the film that this location they were on, this whole land in general, used to be a town which fell down into the ground after a mining accident, and thousands of lives were instantaneously killed. And they had a psychiatrist come into the town to try to help out the people that experienced that harm and that trauma. And the psychiatrist had pretty much stuck around the area all the while, and he had been testing some of the patients and kept them in a very demented way for 13 days. He'd see how they devolve with this trauma. He'd lock them in a room, and they would kind of go crazy, literally becoming a Wendigo, which is a very creepy, in this film anyways, it looks like a creepy zombie that is totally decrepit, and it exists in this location. And the psychiatrist just keeps doing these tests on the patients or anybody that comes through, even after the fact. He brings them in and he tests them. So this is what happened to our friends. They are being tested and they are being watched by somebody. The psychiatrist, the doctor in the film is they call him doctor. So now that we know that, that's the gist of it. the total gist of it. And then at the very end, we realized that the main character, Clover, had experienced some loss. She lost her mother. She obviously lost her sister to disappearance. So she's struggling mentally a little bit. So there's a little bit of depression and psychological angles that are brought into the film. So all of the Wendigos that the friends are seeing are not necessarily 100% there. They might be more projections in Clover's mind. And for her to move on, she almost has to overcome those fears and those anxieties in order for her friends to be relinquished and for them to be able to escape. So that's kind of the gist of it. The film itself, let's talk about it. Looks pretty good, but there's this superfluous character to it that I don't like a whole lot. It's hard to take it seriously at times, and that's what the film is kind of going for anyways. It's just an entertaining horror movie, a popcorn flick that, you know, is going to speed by really quick for you just because it's entertaining. There are some really good moments with the Wendigos in the back half of the film that are quite scary, and there's a few really good jump scares and a portion of the film where they're looking at videos on one of the friends' phones, and they're looking at all these different moments where they were going through different areas of the town and through different houses, and there's all these really good jump scares that they hadn't even remembered. A lot of the time that they are in this location, they kind of, it all blurs together and they don't really remember every bit and piece of it. So that was kind of interesting, and I like that part of the film. And the story itself is very standard. I mean, it's once it starts up and once you realize that it's you replay your life over and over, there's not a whole lot else you can do. They bring in the psychiatrist to try to, spice it up a little bit. And I think that helps a little bit to keep the mystery and keep the audience engaged. So that was kind of good. The dialogue itself at times was a little cheesy, and that's just kind of what you would expect from a film like this. But I thought the actors, the cast list, I thought they did fine for being mostly no names. And I guess that adds a level of authenticity to the movie itself. And the ending, I think, is one that a lot of people should be satisfied with. And that includes the gamers, because we have a scene at the very end, the friends have escaped, and we see that the psychiatrist, the doctor, pulls up in his vehicle to a snowy lodge, which ties in directly to the video game's location. So we could see this movie actually acting as a prequel. So with that in mind, that should satisfy a lot of the gamers and make them happy that, hey, maybe we're actually going to get a story that is faithful to what we have played on PlayStation. So that is really encouraging to see, even for a non-fan of the game. I'm like, that's kind of cool. That's exciting. I think the film does well enough to be worth a watch. Maybe not in the theater. You can watch it at home, and I think you'd enjoy it. I think there's some good qualities in it. I think there's some good scares, some good quality kills as well. There's a lot of very good digital and practical effects in this film that I thought were very impressive. But again, the basis of the story, Clover's projections, she was putting out into this world. She had to kind of overcome those for her friends to get out. And we never really do see what happened to her sister. She was lost. I don't know if she ever really was even there. That might have just been a projection the whole time. Yes, she disappeared somewhere, but in what manner and what fashion is still a little bit unclear. And maybe we'll have more answers in the second film that will come out. We don't know when yet, but there's also a little fun nugget of information for gamers. We see a patient file from the psychiatrist in the film that's subtly noted or put on screen, and that is of Josh Washington, who evidently was one of the characters from the actual video game. So this lets us know, and this even further solidifies that the lodge they pull up at the end of the movie is 100% going to tie into the original location from the game. So that's very exciting. I think the film itself is okay. It's a good watch. I wouldn't say it's, above that average threshold, but I put it at a 3 out of 5. This was a fun one. I did enjoy it. The trailers looked really good. I was excited, but slightly underwhelming. Still worth the watch. If you've seen it, what were your thoughts? That's all for now, guys. Thank you, and keep watching horror.